Hello, grade 11. So we're continuing with trig. We are now going to be going on to the reduction formula, slides 37 to 48 from the PowerPoint trigonometry. Okay. So what I've done is I've just summarized the first few slides here. And what they're talking about is if we're looking at an angle theta or alpha, beta, or whatever the case is, these angles are always acute. Okay. So if I make a note here, theta will always lie between 90 degrees and 0 degrees. Okay, so it's an acute angle. So we know that angles in the first quadrant lie between 0 and 90, in the second between 90 and 180, and in the third between 180 to 270, and then in the fourth from 270 to 360. Okay, now I've just labeled the quadrants with Roman numerals. So that's a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you guys know from your CAST diagram, you have CAST, where all the trig functions are positive in the first quadrant, only sine is positive in the second, tan is positive in the third, cos positive in the fourth. Okay, so what is going on with all of these things here? So in the first quadrant, you know because theta is acute, it'll lie in the first quadrant. Now, if we take 180 degrees minus this acute angle, we'll end up in the second quadrant. If we take 180 plus our acute angle, we'll end up in the third quadrant. If we take 360 degrees minus our acute angle, we'll end up in the fourth quadrant. Then, if we take 360 plus our acute angle, we'll end up in the first quadrant. So that is just something to know. And I have summarized, like I said, the first few slides like that. Okay. What I want you guys to know also before we go on is some identities. The first identity I want you to know is that tan of an angle, theta, is equal to sine over cos. Then sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equal to 1. Those identities you need to know off by heart. Okay, so if we go through the first example, they are asking us to, so this is example 1. They're saying write each of the following as a function value of theta. So A, we've got sine 180 degrees minus theta. So if I come back to this over here, 180 minus theta is in the second quadrant. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to label this with a Roman numeral 2. Okay, just to show that it's in quadrant 2. And if I draw up our CAST diagram over here, we know that in the second quadrant, sine is positive. So I can reduce this to be sine theta. And that's how we reduce it, okay? Because sine is positive in that second quadrant. If we look at question B, now they're asking us tan 360 minus theta. So go back to this, 360 minus theta, we're in the fourth quadrant. So this is in the fourth quadrant. And we know that tan in the fourth quadrant is negative. So this would be negative tan theta. Okay. If we look at question C, cos 360 degrees plus theta. So again, 360 plus, if we have a look here, 360 plus is in the first quadrant. So I'm just going to label this with a 1. So we know that cos in the first quadrant is positive. So this would be cos theta. Question D, sine 180 degrees plus theta. So 180 plus theta, if we have a look here, is in the third quadrant. So I'll label this third quadrant. And we know that sine in the third quadrant is negative. So this would be negative sine theta. Question E, tan 180 degrees minus theta. So 180 minus is in the second quadrant. We know that tan in the second quadrant is negative. So this would be negative tan theta. Question F, cos 180 degrees plus theta. So 180 plus theta is in the third quadrant. So if I label that third quadrant, we know that cos in the third is negative. So this would be negative cos theta. And that's what we've done here, grade 11s, is we've reduced the angles to a single angle like that. Okay. So if we look now at example 2, I'm just going to get some more paper. So example 2, it's asking us to simplify the following expression. So we have 3 cos 180 plus x times by sine 360 degrees minus x all over sine 360 plus x times by cos 180 degrees minus x. Okay, so grade 11s, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through all of my quadrants and show which one is which. So I'm just going to bring this back up. So 180 plus x, just remember that the x, the alpha, the beta, the y, or whatever this angle is always acute between 0 and 90. Okay, so 180 plus x is going to be this one here in the third quadrant. 360 minus x is going to be this one in the fourth quadrant. 360 plus our acute angle is in the first quadrant. 180 minus our acute angle, 180 minus, is in the second quadrant. Okay, so now I've labeled all my quadrants. I can get rid of that. And I'm just going to draw up my cast diagram on the side here. Okay, so equals 3. Now, cos in the third is negative. So we've got here negative cos x. We have reduced it. Okay. Sine in the fourth is negative. So negative sine x. All over sine in the first is positive. So sine x times by cos in the second is negative. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to work out my signs. We have a positive times a negative is a negative times a negative is a positive. So at the top we have a positive, and I'm just going to mark it like this. Positive over. Here we have a positive times a negative gives us a negative. So positive divided by negative is a negative. So the whole thing is negative. Now I can ignore my signs. The cos will cancel with the cos. The sine will cancel with the sine. And we are left with 3 over 1. So our final answer is minus 3. Not too bad. Okay. That was question A. If we look at question B, we've got now, let me do it over here, sine squared 180 degrees plus theta plus cos squared 180 degrees minus theta over tan 180 degrees minus theta times by cos 360 degrees minus theta. Okay, so going back to this, grade 11s, I'm just going to list which quadrants these things are in. Okay, so 180 plus is in the third quadrant, 180 minus is in the second, 180 minus in the second, and then 360 minus is in the fourth. Okay, I've still got my cast diagram there. Now, if we have a look here, we've got sine in the third. Now we know that sine in the third is negative, but this one is a little bit different because we've got a squared. Now, a negative squared is a positive. So yes, I know that sine is negative there, but because we've got the squared, the negative will turn into a positive. And that is why I'm going to leave this as sine squared theta and not put the negative in the front, just because the squared will turn it into a positive. Okay, plus cos in the second is negative, but again, we have the squared. So a negative squared will give us a positive. So this will stay as cos squared theta. Okay, over. So maybe let me just highlight that, guys. Because we got the squared, they will still be positive. Okay, then at the bottom, we have tan in the second. Tan in the second is negative. So this will be negative tan theta times by cos in the fourth is positive. So we have here cos theta. Okay. Now, if I have a look here, I have this identity, sine squared plus cos squared. So that is from our identity that I told you guys on the first page. Sine squared plus cos squared equals 1. So I know that this top is 1. And what I'm going to do here, grade 11, is I'm just going to say divided by and open up a bracket, because this is another identity. We know that tan is equal to sine over cos, and it's going to be a negative. So we've got negative sine theta over cos theta, because I've just expanded my identity. Tan is equal to sine over cos, and this is multiplied by this cos over here, cos theta. Now this cos theta is over an invisible 1. Okay, and as you can see here, this cos will cancel with that cos, and we're left with 1 divided by minus sine theta, which will give us 1 over minus sine theta. And there's our final answer. Okay, so grade 11s, what I would like you to do is exercise 7.4, number 1, 6, A, B, and C, please. Thank you.